issues affecting us. Today on the Situation Room, we are going to be talking about a matter that affects both you and I. Just like I said earlier, we're talking about our relationship with those at the helm of affairs, how we can re-establish the fractured relationship between the government and we, the people. Of course, cohesion is necessary if we're going to build the nation, and I mean cohesion between the government and the governed. Unfortunately, we've seen a fracture in that relationship that has lingered for way too long. And so today on the Situation Room, we want to have a conversation about that particular situation. How to re-establish the fractured relationship between the government and the people. How can we become closer? How can we collaborate? How can we re-establish synergy so that at the end of the day, the country is good for you, for I, and of course those that we have given the power to govern us. Nigeria faces a crisis of trust, and it has become increasingly concerning amid economic downturns, health emergencies, and even the threat of a breakdown of law and order. And this continued low trust environment not only damages social cohesion, even political participation, but it sort of limits the government's ability to function effectively and to respond to the complex domestic and global challenges that we're facing as a country. And public trust is a pillar of democracy. Fostering debate and participation, encouraging compliance with the law, facilitating reforms, but because of the antecedents of those at the helm of affairs who make promises that linger for years from one administration to the other, we see the average Nigerian that takes the word of the political class with a pinch of salt, unfortunately. Well, this evening in the Situation Room, like I said, we would be discussing all the factors that have caused this depleting relationship between the people and their elected or appointed leaders, and most importantly, how to re-establish said trust. Well, my guest today this evening is Abdulmumuni Abiola, of course, the son of late MK Abiola, a direct descendant of one of the pioneers of democracy in Nigeria, and I can't think of anyone else as best suited to have this conversation with this evening as we look at re-establishing the fractured relationship between the government and the people. Good evening, sir. It's a pleasure to have you join us on radio.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Of course, E3. And he garnered sufficient votes to win the later annulled presidential poll at that time. But nations, even their tribal sentiment, it was all put aside. To jointly queue behind the map is a far cry from what was obtainable in the past. So let's start this conversation like this. Can you speak to the current perception of the government by the people, and what exactly?
I'm going to say, right before he got there. So he had basically made his intentions clear. Nigerian people could see the sincerity in that message. So yeah, Nigerian people are not gullible. They were not just relying on hope or maybe God is going to do it. No, they actually had an idea of what he was trying to do. So I think that's what is missing today. We don't communicate to the Nigerian people. Nobody is telling the Nigerian people where we're going. They're not, we're not we're not carrying ourselves along. And the thing about the world is, if I don't know what is happening, I start to make up things in my head. It is worse when I start to make up things, because then it's up to my own imagination at that point. What we want is the government to be able to communicate with the Nigerian people, explain the ideas that they have or the direction that they lead the country, and the Nigerian people are smart enough to key into it or to rebel against it. But if you do not communicate properly with the Nigerian people, you will only have the situations that we have today, where people are agitating and are upset and are not, they're not feeling like they're part of a collective whole, which is what communication does. The more information you give your people, your citizens, they feel more involved in the activities of the country, and then it gives them ownership. So I think that's what is missing, is communication. For now, with everything you said is happening in the country, I would have expected Mr. President to have addressed the nation. We knew about this protest almost a month ago. So a day before the protest starts, I would have suggested the president should have actually started doing some things to just douse the tension in the society. There are some of the requests that were being made by the so-called protesters that are basically are easy to do. Cut down costs, reduce the ministers. These are steps that can be taken, gestures that can be taken by government to show that they're listening to the people. And I think that's all Nigerian people want, to be able to speak and have their leadership listen to them. I think that's what is different.
Right.
In my father's time, he actually was going to lead from the front, but he was taking the cue from the Nigerian people. They were the ones who had the power. I think what we have now is a situation where based on the fact that Mo is lording over people. And in democracy, I'm not supposed to give you directives. I'm supposed to, guide you towards the right path.
Right, we have to know the individual. And this sort of ushers us into the conversation of the leadership selection process in our country. Of course, since our transition to democracy, 25 years uninterrupted, we've allocated billions of naira, we've adjusted the laws guiding election in the country, but it's safe to say that not a lot of people are confident in the results of the elections. And I'm not just referring to the previous election we had, I'm talking elections over time. The hundreds of electoral litigations that trailed the past election sort of solidifies this observation I just made. So if people don't even believe in the process, it's obvious that they don't believe in the result. And like I said, we've committed more money, more resources, we've fixed the Electoral Act, we've improved the elections are not met with such strong resistance by the electorate, and we actually believe when the outcomes are being reeled.
The system, because it's so convoluted, it can get complicated to a point where you might not necessarily see, but there's a way things can be done to show transparency and to show that everybody's equal. So, for instance, I think the one issue that I have with the present way that our electoral process is being run is we have an issue from the party system. I think that is also electoral system is that nobody talks to the Nigerian people. All we do is talk to our party members, and it's only a talk shop to your people who already are going to agree with you because they're already part of your party. So what we need to do is talk to the Nigerian people. That's how, if you look at other countries that are practicing the same democracy we have, they have debate. So you're not only talking to your party members, you're talking to the whole. We find that we don't really have parties. We just have values or any of the ideals the APC espouse who they say they have. So it doesn't matter what party. It's more or less just a very cool. So I think what we need to first of all do is think outside the box. Come up with ideas we're the future. So I think we, as the future of tomorrow, we need to start thinking collectively among ourselves to see how we can have a true party system that represents our aspirations for the country as a whole. Because I can't see how an undemocratic system in the party level, bringing up the candidates, can come up with a democratic leadership in the future. It's like being if you're a dictator all through and through. Because you can't come in as a dictator, then midway switch to being a public servant. It doesn't work that way. So I think it's important that the whole process from top to bottom. So you're not having a situation where you're paying for your ticket, and then the party is supreme. So if you come out from my party, I can say, okay, there are 5 people that want to be governor. What are your credentials? And then the person who has the highest credentials and also can defend his policy in front of everybody, the whole country, should be given that. So it's a merit-driven society that we're looking for. So I think those are some of the issues that we can try to fix as we move along. But like I said, democracy is not a destination but a journey. So what we find now and some of the situations we see now are good that we can even notice those problems. Because once you notice a problem, you can now try to strategize solutions to fix that problem. So for me, I haven't really thought about it, and I said what we need to do is create a party but democratic from ground up. So you have all the members contributing to the party coffers. Everybody has a vote. Everybody is informed. Everybody is aware of what is happening. Our accounting is transparent. It's published on the web. It's published in newspapers, so people can see where the money is going. When you start showing people a different way of politicking, you will see that there will be more people interested in getting involved. And that is another key aspect. Politics is democracy is only as good as the amount of people that believe in it. So if you have 100 million people with voters cards and 20 million people are voting for the next president, then 80 million people are not even believing in the whole democracy to begin with. Who are we governing? So it's important that we have to reach out to everybody who is eligible to vote and who is a stakeholder, because as a Nigerian citizen, you're a stakeholder. And once you can do that, you have more people who are willing to support you in whatever ambition and vision you have. Like I said all the time, Abiodun was one man. He wasn't going to fix Nigeria by himself. But the Nigerian people, in the belief in him, would also believe in themselves to make those right changes, take those right steps towards getting us to that promised land. So it's a collective journey, and it's a collective responsibility of all of us to figure this out.
Democracy is just as significant as the amount of people that believe in it. I'll take that one. If you're just joining us, we're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. So join our live stream and you can participate in the conversation by making use of the live chat option. You can start to react to the conversations that we've had so far in the first 15 minutes of the program, as we are discussing re-establishing the fractured relationship between the government and the people. What is responsible for this trust deficit? Why are people unable to believe the words of those at the helm of affairs? Let's analyze it, let's understand the problem, and of course ultimately prefer a solution and the ways that we can re-establish the trust that is necessary for democracy to truly be functional. I have the pleasure of discussing this evening with Abdulmumuni Abiola, and of course you can tell how enthusiastic and passionate he is about governance and all of the answers he has provided so far. Well, moving back to the conversation that we're having this evening, even right from the start of your analysis, you focused a lot on communication, the breakdown of communication. And here in Nigeria, we have the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, headed by, of course, the Minister, Mohammed Idris. We have the Special Advisor on Media to the President, Ajurin Galali. We have the Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Mr. Bayo Ononuga. And pretty much every public institution has a spokesperson or a PR team. And all of these agencies and individuals, their function is very simple. It's one primary function: keeping the populace informed and involved. But the things that we know are obviously more than the things we don't know, actually, are more than the things that we think we do. And I want to give certain illustrations just to drive home my point. During the COVID-19 crisis, the sharing of palliatives, the social register, even the figures from the MBS, down to the quantity of PMS that is being consumed by the country, we saw related agencies singing discordant tunes. And these things leave room for dangerous assumptions. So what exactly is responsible for this lack of synergy when it comes to reading out information? Sometimes it's not even that the information is unavailable, it's that the people do not believe the available information. What is responsible for this?
Okay, well, I think you also alluded to this in your preamble. There are too many people doing the same job.
Right.
This is the problem. You can't have three different people saying three different things, working for the same person. It can't work this way. So what I would suggest, because like I'm just like a civilian, is that they should actually meet each other. All these three different people have three different offices, have three different PAs and FAs. It's just convoluted. Too many people, too many, talking heads. What you just need is for them to actually synergize and then have one official person reading out information. That is the only way it will work. So that way you're not having, dissenting or assenting voices. You can't have that in government, especially in the government in Nigeria, in a Nigerian setting. Because, and especially in this new climate of fake news, we need to know that what comes out of the federal government it's what it is. We've had these issues over time, and I think it erodes the trust in the government every time when somebody says one thing and then is later debunked by some other institution or some other member of the same party. So you wonder, are they actually even having a conversation between themselves? This is a huge disservice to the Nigerian people as well as Mr. President himself. So I would suggest that when it comes to presidential information, because this is sensitive information, and what is said has a lot of ramifications. So you need to be very careful at what is said, and even your word choice is key. You have to pick your words very carefully, especially in the climate we're in this country. So I think it's important that the messaging is first of all streamlined, and it comes from a place of proper thought. Because some of the things that I'm hearing from some of our so-called spokesmen, it doesn't seem like we're a democracy. It seems like it smacks of some kind of dictatorship scenario happening, and this is not what we all voted for, and I don't think this is where we expect to be at this time, especially 25 years after democracy. So I'm suggesting that some of these people need to be rolled in. Some of them, like I said, these roles are duplicated roles. You don't need to have that many people doing the same job. Some people can also do some other things, or they can actually just work as a team, which is what I expect of people who are asked to serve the president. They should actually work together towards keeping the president. You have to keep the president at a certain level, and with the kind of antics that are going on right now, it only erodes the president's power to do what he needs to do.
Right. Well, let's talk about the politicians a little bit, because the most spoken phrase of the average politician in this part of the world is "I will do." It's more like a never-ending song. The people are tired of dancing to this song, and when the people ask, okay, when? We have the leaders imploring us to trust them, or they go on ahead to give us timelines that are usually not honored. And for every time I make an assertion, I try to attach illustration, so it's not like we're making these things up. This particular notion is sort of evident in, say, for example, the unfulfilled ASU agreement. This is as far back as 2009. We have the incomplete infrastructural projects scattered across the country. The moribund Ajaokuta steel plant, for example, the non-functioning refineries, among other things. They keep giving us dates when they will come upstream, July, August, and then something happens and they come up with one excuse or the other. And then up until this very moment, they still tell us, "I will do." And the people are saying, you do not have antecedents that support this statement of yours. So we have no reason to believe you when you say that you're about to become a functional government at this particular time. How exactly do you think they can reverse this notion in the minds of the people? Do you think they need to go back, make good of the promises they have made in the past, and this will in a way encourage the people to believe them when they speak now?
Of course. First of all, it's even good that the people are actually telling you what you're not doing right, so that way you know what to do. It's a no-brainer for me. Leadership encourages opinions or feedback from the citizenry. That's how we know when we're doing the right, or that's how they should know when they're doing the right thing. So yeah, I would encourage them to actually go back to some of these lingering issues that we've had over the years, like the actual thing that you brought up. These are lecturers, these are teachers, these are husbands, wives, mothers, fathers who have dreams and aspirations of doing great things, and they also giving back to the Nigerian people by educating the future. So I would suggest that something needs to be done. Now, based on the fact that, it's been so long, that, this thing has been happening over time and nothing has been done, it gives credence to some of this anger that we're seeing today. So I would suggest that, over time, we have to take our time because, like I said, some of these agreements were made before this present administration.
Yes.
But at the same time, we need to know that government is a continuum. And just because you were not the one who made those agreements doesn't mean you should not honor them. So I would suggest that yes, that some of these things should be done. And you know what that will do? It will reduce the policy in the environment and the climate. And what you also have, it will give you also time to actually do more. So yes, and those ones are like, it's more like what's the word? It's like a low-hanging fruit. Like when we have issues with pensioners not getting their funds, pay them more. Try to see how we can, mop up funds to pay the ASU lecturers and then even the support staff of these universities. And I think that the president is looking towards that direction. But like I would say that.
Who knows who? Corruption has eaten so deep into the fabrics of our system, and one ingredient of corruption is secrecy. How far down the rabbit hole have we fallen? Is attempting to eradicate corruption simply a pipe dream at this point?
Madam, with the current situation in the country, and with the basic standard of living, we're really in a bad place. Now, I don't know if you can really blame corruption, or you can just blame the situation in the economy. I don't know what you would say to a man who has 5 children, he's making 30,000 a year, a month. How is he supposed to take care of his kids? And you say what? You said that what? He should not try to make ends meet to take care of his family. I think we need to start looking at it in the right direction. When I see when I think of corruption, I'm thinking about those who have been entrusted with roles of leadership and they're taking advantage of the Nigerian people. Now, what should be done is very simple. You see, the only way you're going to stop this kind of kleptomaniac behavior going around the country is if people are held responsible for the crimes that they commit, and it should be public. It should be made public, so it creates a deterrent from others. And I think that's the only problem that I find in this whole fight against corruption. There are some people who are untouchable. There's some people who can be touched because maybe they're not in the party that is running or ruling. This is not going to bode well for the country, because what happens is what people will just do is that, oh, I'm just going to wait for my party to be in office, and then I can steal. And then, so it sends the wrong message. That's what I'm trying to say. So most important, most of these institutions that are there to safeguard the Nigerian people from, from citizens who are taking advantage of their powers, is for them to be punished. And so these institutions need to be independent. They need to be able to function without, looking behind their back. I think it's very important that Mr. President looks into this issue of corruption as a way of, solidifying his own achievement in governance, because it is an issue in Nigeria. Yes, it is. And the way it was done with this corruption has now become something that is okay. We see it every day. Every day when I go outside, I see this corruption happening in maybe lesser magnitude, but I see it. And I'll say to you that what it ends up doing is, instead of you getting all your benefits, you end up getting less. But because because you yourself are not honest with yourself, and you're taking advantage of your little position wherever you find yourself, you won't be able to speak up, because you already know that, oh, I'm collecting here, I'm doing this here. So you're juggling, and God knows that you're just trying to survive. But at the same time, the country cannot survive if everybody is doing that, doing the same thing. So what we need to do is, we need to look at ways to create this deterrent, make these positions unattractive. Why is it that a kid will tell you that what they want to do is they want to be a politician when they grow up? This shows that there's some kind of disconnect. You're supposed to be a doctor, an accountant, a nurse, or something. You have lived that career. You're going to maybe the pinnacle of your profession, and then you decide that you want to give back to the society. You come into politics. In Nigeria, from school, you're going straight to be a politician. It doesn't work that way. You don't have enough experience to actually give all you're supposed to, give 100% back to your constituents. So I think it's important that we understand that. And once we start to see that, when you think you're doing corruption now, but the effects of it is 20, 30 years down the line, and you might not be here to suffer it, but your kids are going to be here to have to pay for it. So I think that it's something that we should be very careful, and we should know that it's something that it can destroy the nation as a whole if we don't check it at this moment.
Sometime last year, right, all eyes on the judiciary was a trend. Even early this year, we still had conversations about that. It was a hashtag that was really active on social media, because the judicial system is considered the last hope of the common man. And the average person kind of relies on the law to defend their rights and protect their interests. And we have stakeholders across different sectors that have oftentimes insinuated that the judiciary have been infiltrated. And this is an impression, of course, that the judicial arm of government continues to oppose. But it will seem Nigerians are not convinced, and they want proof that there is no interference with the activities of the judiciary. If I ask you to speak about the strength and the so-called sovereignty of the judicial arm of government, what would your opinion be?
In a country like Nigeria, where there's different arms of government are supposed to be independent so that they can check each other's excesses, it's not as it should be. It's not like, when you read the textbook definition of devolution of powers and separation of powers, and you hear why the judiciary is there, and why the legislative is there, and why the executive is there. When it comes to Nigeria, it doesn't fit. So what you have is a situation where the executive has so much power, because they're the ones who actually, give out the more funds. And that just they say who pays the piper, they pays the tune. So if a judge has to pander to a governor just to get what is rightfully, constitutionally his, you'll be shocked. It'll be kind of hard for the chief of the judge to not listen to, or to not be influenced by the person who's actually paying his salary. So I think some of these things need to be addressed, and I think also the constitution that we have is also crafted in a way that just keeps us putting us in a box where we just feel like we can't come out of. So I think it's important that we do something with the constitution. I don't know if it's to overhaul it, to just have a new system where everybody we get opinions from across the 36 states and come up with something that is more representative of what we are as a country today. But I will tell you that the most important thing is, if we're going to be a democratic party or a democratic society, we need to understand that there are some checks, there are some safeguards that were inbuilt in this democratic process that we're not necessarily adhering to. And if we're not adhering to some of these safeguards, then what we have is what we should expect. So if these things are in place, there's autonomy for the judiciary, the legislative is also doing their jobs and checkmating the excesses of the executive, you will find that we will have a better society. And I think these three organs of government are supposed to like, they're supposed to synergize. So it's supposed to be like a flow of energy, where things are done in an amicable way, but also in a law, in a society that is ruled with law and order. So yeah, these are some of the issues that I have. For one, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't think it's in my purview to discuss the issues with the judiciary. But I do know that I'm sure that the lawyers that we have in this country, their collective wisdom, I'm sure that they're looking at ways to get the judiciary back into that position that you've already espoused. The last hope for the common man. Because now I think it's more of the last hope for the rich man. But let's hope that one day we'll have the judiciary that really represents the Nigerian people and also is blind to status and influence and things like this.
We're still trying to establish the ways in which we can fix the fractured relationship between the people and the government. How can we rectify this trust deficit? That's why we're having conversations around the perception of the government by the people. We're trying to have a conversation about the electoral process that even brings these people that we're supposed to trust into power. We have spoken about the lack of transparency. We've spoken about corruption and the communication breakdown even within government. And then, of course, we spoke about the judiciary and how the judiciary is supposed to be the hope of the common man. If all things else fail, the judiciary should be there to pick up the pieces. And of course, people should be able to trust in the judiciary. But unfortunately, we have a country full of people that don't even believe those who are supposed to be the custodians of law and order in the country. Well, the Situation Room is what you're listening to at this time. We still have enough time to, as we once again try to think of ways to re-establish the fractured relationship between the government and the people. So earlier when you were speaking about corruption, right, you did mention that on a smaller scale there are people who also are more or less direct or indirect beneficiaries of the corruption that we have in the system, right? And I want us to expand on that a third bit. Democracy is a government for the people, by the people, of the people, meaning that we, the electorate, have more power than we seem to realize, which is why those at the helm of affairs try to keep at least a certain amount of people appeased, because they cannot deny the strength of the people. But with great power comes great responsibility, and we as a people don't seem to have that sense of responsibility. We're so easily swayed by crumbs, and we sometimes unknowingly even help these individuals who are not doing the right thing to stay in power. So do you agree or do you disagree with the idea that the bulk of us do lack a sense of civic responsibility, and as long as we're comfortable, we're unconcerned about the next person and how our actions, or in this case inactions, might affect them?
Yeah, I'll say that. I think, like maybe over time, you have to understand that in the kind of situation that we find ourselves in this country, it is very easy for one to just, become, narrow-sighted and just focus more on their nuclear family, what they can control. When there's so much chaos out there, people try to find little pockets where they can control. So that's why we have houses with fences. There's light in my house, there's no light in my neighbor's house, nobody cares. It's like we're trying to create order in a chaotic environment, and it's just natural, it's just human nature to seek shelter, safety. And then the way it works in normal human nature is, when I take care of myself and my family, then alhamdulillah, I've been able to do that. And nobody looks beyond that aspect. Because like I said, the world now is not like before. Back in the day, we were more like a global village. People were taking care of other people's kids. Now, I don't even know my neighbor's kids, because I don't know my kids, so we don't know each other. We're not like as, I don't know what the word is, we don't come together as we used to before. So I think now it's a little bit harder for us to connect with our fellow Nigerians. But like there's certain things that no matter how much you isolated yourself, the effects will still hit us equally across the board. For instance, the exchange rate. No matter how isolated you are in your cocoon with your AC in your house. Once the dollar went to 2,000, you felt it. Everybody felt it. The petrol cost. These things are universal across the board. Once we start to see the things that bring us together and that like makes us like a community, and you can see that it affects us all equally, we'll start to understand, and I think we'll start to work together towards finding solutions to these problems. So I think with everything that I see that is happening, I think that there could be two things. You can use it, you can rebel. People can say, "Oh, I can't live in this country." They'll leave the country and go to like another country. Or we can try to educate ourselves towards the next elections and try to see if we in any way can even try to see how we can alleviate some of these pressures on our fellow Nigerian citizens. So for me, I see the disconnect, but I also see that in this disconnect, I also see the opportunity that we can use this to unite. Because, like I said, these things are communal and they cut across no matter what part of the country you find yourself. You find that we're all in this same situation. So if we can now look at ways to insulate ourselves from some of these harsh economic realities, it might be good for us as a collective whole towards moving forward.
Well, speaking of these policies and how they affect us, right? The current economic situation in the country has been attributed to the policy statements of this administration, although, of course, some say that they did not exactly cause all of these problems, but their so-called attempt to rectify the problem has somehow further exacerbated it. Subsidy removal, the tax increment, the upward review of the tariff and levies, etc., have in a way worsened the relationship between the government and the people. Although thankfully some of these policies have been reviewed, we're grateful for that. I want you to talk to us about the impact of policies and the influence that it has on the relationship between the government and the citizens. Why is it that these policies that the government intend to use to connect with the people usually act as a catalyst to the separation between themselves and the people?
Well, it's not supposed to be this way, actually. I think even when in the formulation of policies, there are steps that you're supposed to take. You just don't roll out policies willy-nilly. Policies are more of, like you said, a way of the government trying to communicate with the people, but based on the feedback they get from the people. So the policy is geared to solving an issue that is affecting the general populace. So yeah, most of these policies, I actually approve of the major policies that came out, because I believe that Nigeria should be taken as a company. So it's a growing concern thing. You can't play Nigeria with different standards than other countries in Africa or even across the world. So there should be like a level playing field for everybody. So you can't be having an unofficial rate and an official rate. This thing it doesn't bode well for businesses. It doesn't bode well for companies. I get that. But also another thing about policies is it's not only about the policy, but also the way the policy is introduced, the kind of safeguards you're put in place. Because initially, any policy that is introduced, especially in the level, especially in like subsidy or the floating of exchange rate, there's going to be a huge shock to the economy to begin with. So, for instance, if I was going to do anything about like the subsidy on fuel, I would have maybe sent some signals ahead of it. Maybe I'd have had NNPC make some announcements about the different refineries we have across the country coming online. I would have maybe opened up the space for more companies to come in. Maybe had like more modular refineries. So have that news out there. Then say no subsidy. It would be easier. The markets would first of all look at the information from other companies saying that they're going to come into the country to do modular refineries. We're talking about NNPC saying this other thing. So by the time my policy comes into effect, the markets are expecting it because they're already seeing activities happening in different sectors, knowing that okay, it's only a matter of time before he stops subsidy, right? So that way you're giving some people heads up. You're giving some people time to plan towards that eventuality. I think that is the best way to do or rule out any policies. But I can understand Mr. President. He was excited. He wanted to hit the ground running like he said he would. But sometimes hitting the ground running, you have to look at where you're jumping to first. So when you hit the ground, you don't just break your legs. You can still continue. You can still run after you hit the ground. So I think it's important that when we introduce any policy, no matter what it is, we might even want to have like a critical group of people who we throw out the policies to get their feedback before we release it out to the nation as a whole. Because like I said, Nigeria, the way the economy is so fragile that any kind of shock can drive drive us to where we don't want to go. So I think it's important that the way the policy is generated and the way it's delivered are also key. So I think that those are the only issues that I had. The only thing I had with the policy was delivery and how it was communicated to the Nigerian people. And that goes back to my first point about communication. Before you can do anything in any company, before any company makes any drastic or decision, they actually have to tell the people in the company first so that they can prepare towards it. And I think that's just in basic anything in life. Even God, when He gave us the ability to make babies, He gave us an opportunity to know what we're getting to. He gave us 9 months. There's a 9 months between the time you impregnate your wife and having the baby. It's 9 months. That gives you time to plan. So you didn't just impregnate your wife and have the baby the next day. That would be that would be a shock to the system. Even me, I'd probably go crazy. But you have 9 months. That's the God is even showing you that. Look, even Him, you have to give us. As human beings, we don't like change.
Right.
Yeah, you have time to plan and adjust to the new realities of ground. So I think that's going to be the only issue I have with that.
Right. Well, moving forward, right, earlier you did say something like you expected that in the face of all of the things we're going through in the country that the president should have addressed the nation. And of course, we can all agree that we're at a very volatile and a very fragile position at this time. And in all of this vulnerability, people have indeed asked that the president address the nation and talk to his people, assure them that they can rely on him and show them that he's in this with us. But let's take, for example, the planned protest that's scheduled for tomorrow, Thursday, the 1st August 2024. We have people like Asari Dokubo, and to be honest, I don't mind name dropping because this is information that is available to the public. We have traditional rulers as well. We have state actors, even non-state actors, They've insinuated that people cannot exercise their fundamental human right to protest. They're saying you shouldn't be outside. Why are you outside? You're going to destabilize the polity. When the Constitution clearly says people have a right to protest as long as they do so peacefully. Another example, right, an older example was when ASU went on strike. And then the federal government instituted a no work, no pay policy and even went on ahead to obtain a court injunction from the industrial court that stops the union from going on strike. The question I'm trying to draw out of all of this is, what are your thoughts about the crisis response mechanism of the government? The way they handle agitation from the people. What do you think about it, and can it be better?
It can definitely be better. Now, in fact, I'm actually very, very disturbed at what I'm hearing from the first pro-democratic president that we've ever had. Well, I haven't heard it directly from Mr. President's mouth. Thank you for showing protest. But I think that it's very unbecoming of a progressive government to be seen to be trying to suppress the Nigerian people's voices. Now, the only thing that I would say to this will be, and the only thing government should be to protect the Nigerian people against anybody either voicing the displeasure. And like this protest is happening tomorrow, but we knew almost a month ago. And we must have known there were certain things going across the news waves, saying some of the demands that they had. This thing could have been nipped in the bud before tomorrow. Certain actions could have been taken. For instance, this subsidy of a thing that we're saying that we don't have anymore. Apparently, we do have it because now we have scarcity across the country. So it shows that the marketers are saying that the landing cost is true. What they're paying and what they're getting is not correlating, so they can't do business this way. So what I would have suggested would be some of these measures should have been instantly enacted. Nigerian people are hungry. We all know that. We know the situation in the economy, and we know that things are being done to fix or to make things easier. But in the meantime, steps can be taken. For instance, I would have hoped that Mr. President would address the nation and say something to the effect of, they instructed DPR to reduce all petrol funds by 50%. So I think at this point we're having that 600 naira. So we just do it to 300 naira. And then because we're already paying subsidy as we are now, we just have to pay. And this will maybe be for like 6 months just to reduce the tension. Electricity tariff can also be reduced by the same 50%. just to reduce the anger in the society. And this is also listening to the Nigerian people. When somebody, vents out his displeasure with something, there is something at the bottom of it. It's just not anger. There is something that precedes the anger, and there's something that is offended them that they're using, that they're now reacting to. Once we can figure out what that is, it will be easier to solve. And then some measures like reducing the cabinet is a no-brainer. As far as I'm concerned, we already know we don't have the money to sustain the present size of government. So maybe streamlining these ministries might be a good idea. Reducing the amount of ministers might be also a good idea. Even reducing their salary might be a good idea. Just taking gestures to show to the Nigerian people that we're all in this together would be a good idea. I don't see how this is not a win for Mr. President. For Mr. President to take this, to take a step in this direction, I would think would garner him more love by the Nigerian people. They will also see him as sincere in his approach to living. It's one thing for me to tell my son, after I beat my son, and then he starts crying, and I'm not saying why is he crying, but I beat him. So for me, once and government, they're like, like astrology is the father of the nation. No matter what you want to say, he's the father of our nation. He should be able to understand that the people are only reaching out to him because they see him as the leader, and the steps he can take are very. I think are the easiest things they can do. Do something that will make the society and the Nigerian people happy. And another thing that will also do it will reduce that pressure on that protest. You'll be shocked that once you make at least like a simple gesture towards them, like we're going to review the constitution to fulfill our aspirations. We're going to have like a national compact. There are different things that can be said by Mr. President that would, we're very divided in Nigeria today, and I think the elections also opened up a lot of wounds through the whole process of that election. I think what we know to do is we need some like a national healing kind of conference where we all discuss the issues as we see it. And I think that's important. So these are the kind of steps that I would suggest to Mr. President to take, just to see how certain things can be reduced, just to reduce the pressure on the Nigerian people. And I think he's already making some of those steps. Now we have removed the tariff on food items, to allow them to come in.
Yeah, the import duties have been minimized. Yeah.
So that would be good. I think that could have been done a long time ago. Because now, if you're doing it now, you're probably going to start getting the effect by December, January, which is still a long time. But let's see how that goes. But we can see that the government, the president is listening, and the people in charge of affairs are also listening. And I'm sure, I'm sure the people will be allowed to protest peacefully, as long as that there's no damage. I'm just hoping that the security agencies understand that they are there to protect the protesters, and because we're all Nigerian, and we're all fighting for the same thing, right, which is a better Nigeria, I think, and I think that's what we're looking for. And I was very taken aback with some of the comments by some non-state actors. I'm not able to even address it because I felt they're non-state actors, and they really don't have any business, trying to threaten or intimidate people in that way, especially in a country that we all belongs to all of us. There don't think there's any master-servant relationship happening here. This is the country that we all love and we all care about. And it's just hard for a certain group of people. And I'm telling you, it's not necessarily only for the poor. It's hard for everybody in the country. So I think it's important that the president starts to see ways of trying to reduce this tension. And I'm sure things will start to look up in the not too close future, inshallah.
We definitely have a lot of work to do with our crisis response mechanism, for sure. We're slowly wrapping up the conversation, but I want us to have a conversation about even we, the media, because I don't want us to seem like we're exactly remove ourselves from the situation, because the media can be described as the fourth estate of the realm. We like to call ourselves that. And think of the media as what's the word now? Concierge of information, right? We hear from both sides. We give a platform for open conversation, which means that the media is capable of setting a tone, either positively or negatively. So would you say that the media is partly responsible for the estranged relationship between the people and the government, maybe in the way that certain events are being reported?
Well, yeah, I think the ways that you can report an event where you give people a realistic picture of what is happening in the society. So you have different views. So you're not just having one side tells you. So what we have today is we have some stations that are focused on maybe approve the government, and then some that are not the government. So people now just decide which one they want to listen to depending on what side of the fight they fall. So you just basically see yourself talk over and over again. Nobody listens to the other side. I think it's important that we are very democratic with our approach to stories, and we're taking into account the idea that there's always another side to a story, and then that side to the Nigerian people as well. But like I said, I can't really blame any institution, any sector in the country. Like I said, all sectors in the country are basically surviving, and I think we're still lucky that there are some journalists out there who are still, focused on the issues and trying to, bring the light to some of these darkness that we see all around us. And I think it's important because if you notice, there's this new, and this is global, this attack on journalism, media.
Of course.
So you guys have to be careful because your life might also be at risk based on your opinion or the kind of direction you take the story. So sometimes we need to balance out that you guys also have families and you have lives that you live outside of the the newsroom, and those things need to be taken into account too. But like I said, Nigeria belongs to us. It's our collective responsibility. Be you a doctor, nurse, teacher, soldier, police officer, like basically whatever you are, accountant, anything. As long as you're Nigerian, we all have a role to play in moving this country forward. So I think that I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not a journalist. I'm not gonna dictate to the journalists what to do. But I know that they're also, in their own way, doing the best they can. Because I know a couple of journalists that they'll do a write-up and they get hounded, they get arrested. Sometimes they're not heard from for weeks, months. So sometimes it might be hard to do your job the right way, especially when you know that the repercussions might be dire, and nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to die.
Yeah. Well, finally, before we let you go, thank you so much for the time you spared us so far. But let's conclude like this as we begin to wrap up the conversation. In what ways can the government now begin to rebuild trust with the citizen? Can this relationship be repaired?
I believe it can. And we see this happening across the world. We have unrest, like we see what happened in Kenya. We see the president also reaching out to the people. I think what we need to do before it gets worse is we need to start to talk to ourselves. So we need the government to talk to the people, to address the nation. Especially on the eve or the day of the protest, and make some overtures that shows that the government is a listening government, and those overtures can be cosmetic. We're going to reshuffle the cabinet. I don't believe that they're giving the Nigerian people what they expect. So I'm going to reshuffle the cabinet. I would like the Nigerian people to be expecting that shortly, that there will be a reshuffling to be done to the cabinet. That could be something. Reduction in the size could be something just to show that, we're cutting cost on our end as well. It could shelve some things, like there's some excessive spending happening in the government that could be curtailed. I think it's in our faces every day. We're hearing the stories. I think some of these things should be done. And also transparency. Some of these monies that have been borrowed recently, and we need to know where these monies have been going through, and what, and then, we need ministers to start to, talk to their constituents, do town hall meetings, even reach out to those protesting, especially when it has something to do with their future. Like, for instance, I think there's going to be a youth kind of centric thing that is happening tomorrow. So the Minister for Youth should be out front and center with the protesters, listening to them, and then also making some overtures to them. I think it's important that we don't stifle our Nigerian voices, and we allow ourselves to express. It's not necessarily. I don't think any Nigerian person is inherently violent. I think it normally happens when maybe something happens where you feel like your rights have been eroded on, and then you now react. So what we just need to do is just make sure it's a peaceful procession where people are just venting their issue, their angst and anger. And once that is done, it's done in a civil manner. The government will also be proactive and come out and nip it in the bud before it gets to like a previous protests we've had over the years that have ended up in a chaotic manner.
Thank you so very much. It's been a very interesting conversation with you as we walk through all of the many factors that we addressed throughout the course of the program. Well, for those of you who caught the program, I'll say congratulations to you, but not to worry. The beauty of social media is that this particular session is going to be uploaded on our Facebook and YouTube pages. So if you missed it, you can very well go back and watch it. And for those of you that are currently streaming the program, I see all of you making use of the live chat option, dropping your submissions. Not to worry. We're due for a break in about 2 minutes. And when we come back from that break, I'll read all of your messages and then I'll open the phone line so that you can speak to the conversation that we've had earlier. We spoke about reestablishing the fractured relationship between the government and the people. And like I said, we had the pleasure of discussing with Abdulmuni Abiola, of course, the son of the late MKO Abiola, who, like I said, is just as passionate about nation building. Thank you so very much, sir, for joining us. It's been a beautiful, beautiful session with you. And we look forward to more conversations like this one with you.
Anytime.
Have a great day.
You too.
Yes. Well, conversations definitely continue here on Mainland 98.3 FM. Like I said, we're going to take the headline news at 5, and then when we come back, we have a few commercials as well. When we come back, I'll read all the messages we have on Facebook, on YouTube, on WhatsApp, and then I will open the phone line so that we can hear what you have to say. We had quite an enlightening conversation. Some parts were a little uncomfortable because some truths are very, very uncomfortable, but then we have to have these conversations. All we're trying to do is understand the perception of the government by the people. How do you feel about the government? Why do you feel the way you feel about the government? Is it the antecedent? Is it the unfulfilled promises? Is it the problem with communication, or the dissenting voices across agencies of government, the lack of transparency, corruption as the elephant in the room? Even we as a people, do we lack a sense of civil responsibility where as long as we're comfortable, we don't care that the other person is suffering? We don't hold certain people to account because we benefit from them. We spoke about the role of the judiciary, of course, as the last hope of the common man. If all things else fail, can we trust the judiciary to save us? Can we trust the judiciary to protect our interests? We had a conversation about policy and the kind of influence it has on the relationship that we have with the government. These policies are supposed to be a connecting line, more like a nexus between the people and the government, because these decisions affect us. But it seems like each policy further broadens the gap between the government and the people, and we try to understand why that is the case. And then we also spoke about the crisis response mechanism of the government, the way they react when people express their displeasure, the steps that they take in an attempt to pacify the people. It seems that it further aggravates the people, and we had a conversation about that. And obviously we want to hear what you think, of course, and also the role of the media. Of course, we're not going to act like saints in all of this. We are a part of the conversation. Like I described us as the concierge of information. We're more or less the middlemen, if we can call ourselves that. So is it the way we report the stories? Is it the fact that we're too honest sometimes? Is it the fact that we try to manage the situation sometimes? What role do we play in the relationship between the people and the government? That's just a summary of the conversation that we had earlier. Let's go for this break, and when we come back at 5 and then we take a few commercials, we'll open the phone lines like I said and hear what you have to say. This is the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM. Don't go anywhere.
It seems anxious and uncertain. I understand the hardship you feel. I wish there were other ways, but there's not. If there were,
in our quest to bring to the table issue-based conversation around nationhood and development, we have made 4 to 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday a perfect time to welcome you into the city.
Mainland 98.3 FM, your #1 radio. We are the sound of Lagos.
Headline news on 98.3 Mainland FM.
Good evening. Headline news on Mainland 98.3 FM. My name is Omobola Sandra. Lagos State Government deploys RRS and task force to streets ahead of protest. Give government more time to meet demand, Senate appeals to protesters. Hunger protest, UNILAG postpones ongoing second semester exam. Tertiary institution students to get 850 million naira loan today, says Nel Fund. First Lady Remi Tinubu mourns Onyeka Wenu, says she was a pillar of support. On the foreign scene, Kamala Harris to announce vice president choice soon as tour begins in Philadelphia. In sports, Super Falcons nurse big hope of victory against previous Olympic victims, Japan. That's the headline news on Mainland FM. Details at 5:30.
You're listening to Mainland 98.3 FM. The sound of Lagos.
Hello, Twe. Hey, you just win 5,000 naira cash. And you will sit down for corner. 1 month Showmax subscription naira airtime and 2,000 naira Uber discount. 6-digit code for Rapper. Just there, shout.
Hold up. MTN is got easy and conveniently spread the budget-friendly payment. What are you waiting for?
Hello, Twe. Hey, league, they wait for you. And you for back. No fear. If you buy no unwrap and bring back, to win. Go there. Why stop the loud?
Fixing your damaged phone just feels like a lot of wahala and can be very expensive, right? But not anymore, Mtala. Your screen cracks, no wahala. Your phone gets burned, no wahala. Why? Because accidental damages are also covered. Even if you're lazy like me and cannot cope with the stress of getting your phone fixed, your damaged phone will be picked up, fixed and dropped off, all while you chill at home. And the best part is, you also enjoy free MTN data when you purchase any device protection plan. Seriously, who doesn't love free data? You also enjoy free MTN data when you purchase any device protection plan. To enjoy your device with peace of mind, visit mtn.ng/device services to get your pocket-friendly device protection plan. MTN, outdo yourself.
Yes, you just won 5,000 naira cash. And you, sitting by the side, there's 1 month Showmax subscription to watch the Premier League waiting for you. You behind. Of course, you're not left out. How does 1,000 naira airtime and 2,000 naira Uber discount sound? All this could come true when you buy the No Unwrap and Win pack. Open it, look for a cube with a 6-digit code on its wrapper. Text the code to 8011 and follow the prompts to win. Promo valid while stock lasts. Terms and conditions apply. Get extra value on the No Unwrap and Win pack. No, eat for good.
Fixing your damaged phone just feels like a lot of wahala and can be very expensive, right? But not anymore. MTN is here with a solution to help you protect your phones. Accident happens, so imagine this: your phone falls into water, no wahala. Your screen cracks, no wahala. Your phone gets burned, no wahala. Why? Because accidental damages are also covered. Even if you're lazy like me and cannot cope with the stress of getting your phone fixed, your damaged phone will be picked up, fixed and dropped off, all while you chill at home. And the best part is, you also enjoy free MTN data when you purchase any device protection plan. Seriously, who doesn't love free data? You also enjoy free MTN data when you purchase any device protection plan. To enjoy your device with peace of mind, visit mtn.ng/device services to get your pocket-friendly device protection plan. MTN, outdo yourself.
Things seems anxious and uncertain. I understand the hardship you face. I wish there were other ways, but there's not. If there were,
In our quest to bring to the table issue-based issue-based conversation around nationhood and development. We have made 4 to 5:30 p.m. Monday to Friday the perfect time to welcome you into the Situation Room as we continue to build the narrative about public service and accountability.
Mr. President, this Senate needs to know. Mr. President, this Senate needs to lend its voice to the plight of these people. Mr. President, there is nowhere I can say it except here. This is why I'm elected. If I cannot say these things on this floor, sir, I better resign and leave.
As elections give the citizens the chance to make their political decisions, constant demand for quality leadership from those they voted into office.
Look at us, man, there is nothing, we are starving. We should please do something.
It's also important to having a Nigeria of everyone's dream. Join ʞᴏᴜ as it takes to task seasoned analysts, opinion makers, business professionals, and politicians on issues around politics, policies, governance, and leadership. Every Monday to Friday from 4 to 5:30 p.m. on your super dial, Mainland 98.3 FM will welcome you next as we discuss the situations.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. This is still the Situation Room on Mainland 98.3 FM, the sound of Lagos. It's time for us to hear from you. We had a conversation about repairing the relationship between the government and the people. How can we be friends? Once again, with those at the helm of affairs. Cohesion is necessary for us to enjoy the many benefits of democracy. We need to trust in the people that are in charge of the affairs of the country. But sadly, for many reasons, we don't seem to trust them. Every time they put out a statement, the bulk of us doubt the credibility of these statements. And if you don't believe in the people that are ruling you, how do you believe in their policies? How do you believe in their plans for the nation? And how can we truly enjoy the tenets of democracy? And that's why we brought this conversation to radio. You've heard our guest, Abdulmuni Abiola, son of late MKO Abiola, one of the pioneers of democracy. Do you agree with his perspective on this issue? Do you have fresh perspective that you would like us to address? All of this we would get the minute we open the phone lines. Of course, we're available on our streaming platform on Facebook at Mainland 98.3 FM. YouTube is also available at Mainland 98.3 FM. If you'd like to call into the studio, 0913-6000-410. If you'd like to send WhatsApp or a text message, you can do so via the number 0913-6000-430. My name is Sage Babalola. This is the Situation Room. Let's hear from you. Hello, good evening. Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
My name is Sage Babalola. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Okay, sorry about that. Good afternoon, my sister.
Yes, welcome.
Yeah, this is Ḥūfūrī from Tango.
Yes.
Yeah, I also make two remarks before I make my contribution. The first remark is that on 2nd of this month, 2nd of July, I called you to tell that you should have minute when we did so. But I don't think what are the truth in the top. You know, it was a joke. I joke. But you listen to your resource today. He says something that concerns all of you. As long as you are doing this job, saying the truth, be careful. It's not only for that you say the truth. So when your station is also there, that shows this also in Nigeria. Not about nation of paper. So you guys should be very, very careful. Unless you want to die like Jesus Christ, you die for cause of the truth. Otherwise, you guys be very careful. That's number one. Number two, the remark is that this thing looks always the place by the president. That I know that these people are toxic. I know if you should reject him to people. I'm just saying it to the other many people that are saying it. If you reject him, not going to mean to say that's you know, my contribution is when Tinubu was inviting people to after all religious leaders and this and that, these are the people that are not hungry. We are talking about disconnect between the government and the people. So when he was inviting these people, they call them stakeholders, the religious leaders, those people, politicians, governors. These are not the people that he should discuss with. So that disconnection has already been there over the years. This is that today. However, why this one is the worst is because of the type of hunger, the level of hunger we have in the land. Otherwise, the whole problem is the National Orientation Agency, Minister of Information, they are essentially doing nothing. I don't know the budgetary allocation to them over the year, or the particular this particular one, this particular year. I don't know what they need to money for. People go on radio, people go on TV, tell people this. And in fact, if they are been communicating with the people, if they are been in touch with the people, as a matter of fact, you look at the hunger, people will say, I'm able to, okay,
thank you so much for calling. Thank you.
And we're no more patient, nobody is patient anymore.
Thank you for calling. We appreciate you. Let's allow other people to speak as well. Please don't forget you have just 2 minutes. Usually I would give 1 minute. Forgive me. Usually I'll give 1 minute, but I know you have a lot to say. So please let's work with 2 minutes. 0913 6000 410. In 2 minutes, please get your opinions out there. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Yeah, my take on the issue is that it's not about a protest. It's about ethnicity and the distraction that is now we are trying to prevent within the society we find ourselves. If it is a society that are enjoying themselves peaceful before the protest, we could have said the protest should go on smooth.
Hold on, sir. Hold on. Please, hold on. Yeah. We're not talking about the protest. We're talking about the disconnect between the people and the government. Why is there such a disconnect, and how can we fix it?
That is why, before you bring this topic coming, that is the issue that is coming up before you even go into that. Right. How to bring in the government to the people together. Because the people in government are been separating from the masses entirely. And that is why we are seeing that in this issue, because of the issue that are distributing from each other, because of the tribal sentiment, my candidate is not doing this, it is only my people that have right to do the right thing. If you are not an outsider in this office, whatever that you are doing is not good. If you are not an ego in this office, whatever that you are doing is not good. These are the issue. If you need it, and this is when you are within the government institution, the way they will, because you are part of the government student, is one of the issues that we have in this country is the tribalism and the language difference. And we have never eradicated this issue. And because of that is why you see the appointment of sidelining when they say within the Yoruba nation, and they say it's only Lagos boys that occupy the federal seat. Not even the same people have been cut off, or other people have been cut off from their federal government appointee. These are the issues here. And if you go to the north, they see the core north, they enjoying the most. The minority in the north don't even occupy the seat of authority. If you go to the south side, they say they only give them 5 ministers. This is the tribal and the sentiment that we bring into the government. That is why we are divine-minded within ourselves. Right. Even go back to all the area, all the sector we find ourselves. Within the institution we are finding ourselves. We see some radio station also the way I'm talking to you. From 1, 2 to 3, we will not see other tribes occupy the position of authority in all departments. We only see one tribe occupy it. We only see because they come from that area. That is the issue.
Thank you for calling. We appreciate you, sir. Hello. Hello.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Why do I know this voice?
Like I say now.
So I'm familiar with the voice, but I just couldn't register it. How are you? It's been a long time. I mean, it's significant progress.
I will fight your company.
Why?
I bet they provide ladies line. I'm begging you people.
We'll work on it. We'll work.
I don't start my protest now. We'll make a mainland FM provide ladies.
We will. Please.
Please, I'm protecting you.
Okay, talk to us about the topic. What are your thoughts?
You know, this government, they are very, very funny people. Honestly, they are clowns. Why am I saying that? 2012, when this governor, president, gathered people, prominent people in Nigeria, nowadays, I don't take them like prominent people. Protest in Ajoka, all over the country. Please, I want to ask, is there any hijack that time with Goodluck Jonathan threatening them. The Goodluck Jonathan prevent them not to protest. The Goodluck Jonathan tell them not to protest. That time, a bag of rice was 6,000, 6,500, 7,000. How many 6,500 or 7,000 will you count out in one bag now? This government, let me just not say what is in my mind. Honestly, tomorrow we will hit the street. Right. I support this protest.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you, sir. I beg. Not gonna do something for us.
Good work on
Thank
it.
you.
I promise. Thank you so very much for calling. Well, let's do Facebook for a little bit. We have Case Holy on Facebook who says, nobody is concerned about changing the president. Let the president return fuel to 120, gas to 200 naira, diesel to 400 naira. Clearing duty should come back to 2 million and not this 11 million plus that they're using to clear goods. All things, everything should be cheap. All right. You're saying these things would somehow repair the relationship between the government and the people. All right, low hanging fruits. We have 𝐴𝐶𝐴 on Facebook who says, let Nigeria work. That's our prayer. May God bless Nigeria. Kabiru Adegbinro says, President Tinubu should come out with his ideas that will bring smiles onto the faces of Nigerians now. Nigerians are going through hardship. God bless the country. Thank you very much. Tochukwadele Thompson says, good evening. It was Tony Radia, former NTA Director General, that told the world that there is no free media anywhere. That the media is not free is the challenge. The narrative you churn out is protective of the Nigerian government far and above the people, especially once the government pay presentations through the information ministry. The media should have remained quiet about whether the protest should be peaceful or violent, for example, and concentrate on narrating the need for government to become representative as mandated by the people. What is the fear about if you are truly the fourth estate as you should? Tochukwadele Thompson from Obanikoro. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I understand your point of view, correct? But then we are supposed to reiterate what the law constitutes. And the law does says that everyone is allowed the right to protest as long as it is peaceful. It's stated there in the law section, I believe 40 of the Constitution. In fact, section 45 of the Constitution goes on ahead to say that the government is allowed to interfere and oppose a protest if it poses danger to individuals or a group of people. So the protest has to be peaceful. For you to exercise that right, there is a condition that you do not pose any form of danger to individuals, to lives and properties for it to be peaceful. So as much as you expect the media to be neutral, we also in that neutrality have to reiterate what the law states. So it doesn't mean we're taking a side. All we're doing is simply speaking to the law, and the law is fact. So in the law. Thank you very much, Tochukwadele Thompson. But still now doing everything possible to resist the planned protest, which will be starting tomorrow at the 1st of August, despite the long-term notice that have been given. If we the masses can endure him for 1 good year and the APC for 9 years, I don't know the reason why they should not be able to accommodate the citizen for just 10 days that the national protest will last, and all they need to do is ensure that there's adequate security for the protesters. To me, I feel this protest will cheer the president up to do what the masses have been clamoring for. God bless Nigeria. 𝐴𝐶𝐴 from Ijagemo community. Thank you so much. We have Amalachuku Okiegbele. We have here, please let the learners do the needful. God bless Nigeria. All right, thank you very much for your message. Let's go back to the phone. We're talking about re-establishing the fractious relationship between the government and the people. What can the government do to make you trust them? How can we fix this trust deficit between the people and the government? That is the primary conversation for this evening. We have a few minutes left to take submissions. Let's answer the phones. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Sorry. Good afternoon.
Good evening to you, sir.
This is Joshua calling from Ūbūtēmētā.
Nice to have you. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. See, the protest is probably going to happen tomorrow. So there is a plan, of course. At least by 9 o'clock, we will be able to know if at all the protest is going to happen. Because I'm in a group where, of course, I don't want to allow this. At 9 o'clock, we'll be having a meeting. So I want a protest to happen. Because one, we cannot continue like this. There is hardship.
Hello? I don't know if you'll be able to make it back before we finish the conversation. By all means, call us back if you can. And if you're unable to call us, you can just send a message to WhatsApp 0913-6000-430. I feel like a lot of us are not really speaking to the primary conversation here. We're talking about the trust deficit. We're not arguing whether or not the protest should hold. And I've been saying this over and over and over again. The conversation is not on whether or not the protest should hold. That's not the conversation. We've had a whole week to talk about the protest, and of course we would update you tomorrow if it eventually holds. We're talking about the trust deficit between the people and the government. What can they do to make you trust them again? That's what we're asking you. Good evening. Hello. Hello. Yes, good evening.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Good evening.
Am I speaking with Mainland FM, right?
Yes, this is Mainland FM. Your name, sir?
My name is Ibrahim. I'm sorry for inconvenience. I will spot
Send a message. Send a message to. Send a message. Send us a message. Send a message to 0913-6000-430 with your request. Hello.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Hello. Yes, good evening. Good evening.
Yes,
please tell us your name, sir. Tell us your name. We can barely hear you. Your connection is really bad. Yes, good evening to you, sir.
Yeah, this is 𝜃 Thompson.
We finally hear from you.
Okay, people that frequent the
I understand.
track.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, exhaust the intention of the content. I'm saying that yes, it is stated that protest should be peaceful and it should not be violent. But as the true fourth estate that you are, you should have kept quiet on whether what the people plan to do will be violent or peaceful. Because the nature and characteristics of true protest is that it is impromptu and spontaneous. Why you have the opportunity to err in this regard is because this was planned and announced, and it was born out of the pain, the excruciating pain that the people are going through. If truly our leaders are as representative as they are mandated by the people, by now the president should have reversed the removal of that subsidy, because it has put serious hardship on people. And for Aībᴅᴜ, for instance, the Senate president, to come out to make the statement he made today, that people that want to protest should go ahead and protest, that while they are protesting they will be eating. It tells you that
thank you.
Even if this protest turns violent.
Thank you for calling. It's 2 minutes. Hello.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, this is coming from Ʀᴏ.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes, I'm with you.
Yeah. You see what really happens is that you see those who protest about the president and believe that they are not connected with you. They still believe that Nigeria will be okay. So that's why they are patient. But one thing I want us to know, particularly those who are going to organize this protest, that taking government, they say you are taking it back. How do you take government back? Because when you are elected the Nigeria president, that is chaos. You should realize one thing. No say protest on this one. It's still like they are expecting that things will be turned around. You should be patient. If you are not patient, they are looking for trouble. So I don't know if you are hearing. If we don't like it now, fine. There's no problem. Just 2 years or 8 months, we need for movement. So that the other people can come and the win the election. So why are we want to tell me our country tomorrow? Are we looking for what?
Thank you.
Look at what happened in Bangladesh. hundreds of people died. Look at the neighbors, the area they are talking about. How many officials are there? More than 80 are there now.
Thank you.
And is there any solution yet? Because we have most of people have not witnessed catastrophe in this country. We don't know what they are saying.
Thank you so much for calling. We appreciate you. Well, I'm going to have to go. I know they still had a few seconds left, but we really have to go as we're out of time. We appreciate you. I really wish that we were able to speak to the foundation of this particular issue. I think that we're still very overwhelmed with the protest, and we're so interested in the protest such that we're just dismissing other important conversations. But then it's not my place to decide what is important to you. Then again, this conversation will definitely continue on radio. Tomorrow, join the Situation Room, 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. as we discuss national issues even further. Of course, we'll be joined by well-to-do guests, important guests who are very, very aware of what a nation should be like or look like. People who have seen the nation at its best position before, and hopefully doing everything they can to make sure we go back to the glory as the giant of Africa that we're supposed to be. My name is Sage Babalola. Thank you so very much for your contribution. The global news, I beg your pardon, at 5:30 would be upon us in just a few seconds. Don't forget to join the conversation tomorrow, 4 to 5:30 p.m. here on Mainland 98.3 FM. Again, thank you very much for your contribution. Until next time, don't go anywhere.
Follow us on all our social media platforms